What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Burn Bootcamp podcast. You're here with your co-host, Devan. And if you haven't heard, Morgan's on Mondays. I know you guys are loving Morgan. You're loving the content. We are sprinkling in Burn Nation voices all over the place, and it's been just really fun. We just crossed 100 episodes like last month, and we're dropping every single day so that you know. And today is a very special episode because I get to talk about something that I've been working on for at least since I was 12 years old, right? So that's a solid 23 years, all right? And it is mental health. And this big umbrella of a topic sometimes gets lost in society nowadays. When people speak about mental health, I think there's a lot of, it's such a big umbrella that it covers so many things that it's almost like everything is mental health. And so then I started thinking about, all right, well, let me land that plane and let me try to think about what could be, the largest contributor to, modern day depression, anxiety, states of extreme frustration, because there's obviously the real clinical depression, and there's also what some believe to be depression, and neither one of those both of those things are mental health issues, right? And I think that it's important that we understand that there's such a degree of mental health issues that we shouldn't try to bucket what is mental health related versus what isn't. I mean, it's such a big term. It's almost like in business, it's like communication. Well, communication is everything, right? And then there's just different ways that communication can practically apply to your environment. And so I started thinking, how does mental health practically apply to our environment? I'm not going to sit here and talk about clinical mental health or clinical depression or anything like that. What I'm going to talk about is the vast majority of us that get I would say that where mental health issues arise for the vast majority of us because of what other people think about us and what other people say about us. So if you look around and you see all right, where is all of my sources of depression, anxiety, frustration? It usually has to do, from my estimation, 95+% of the time with what other people are saying about us, what other people are commenting on our posts about, what other people are saying behind closed doors about us. The judgments of other people is the number one practical contributor that leads to today's modern day mental health, right? Outside of clinical depression and clinical mental health issues, like when we talk about just unhappiness, that's a good way to think about it. Today's definition of modern day mental health struggles has a lot to do with judgment of other people. So those two things go hand in hand outside of clinical depression, like I said. So I'm going to dive into that, okay? I'm going to dive into why I think that is, and I want to give you one rule. So I have one rule that I've lived my life by since I was 12 years old when, I realized that it was just really me, myself, and I taking care of myself. 12 years old is the year that I became a man. I got in an altercation with my father at the time, and it was a pretty bad one, and it resulted in child abuse charges being filed against him, and I ended up being like, all right, listen, I got to get myself right. Even at a young age, I remember thinking this. I got to take control of my life or else nobody else will, okay? And what was going on at that time was probably the most amount of shame I've ever felt because I've never been able to, at the time I wasn't able to process what was going on. But as you come from a family of turmoil in a small city like that, what you have is that name is associated with you, and now all of a sudden I'm the troublemaker, and I take the burden of responsibility for my parents' misbehavior and their inaction or action. And I take that on my back and my shoulders, and now that becomes my reputation and my personality and my this and my that. And other people in the community start judging me for, and when they don't even really know who I am, right? Just because I have a last name. And so I've been working on this forever, and I can remember to this day feeling those embossments or those almost at the time it was like permanent weight or like real heavy weight of shame. And emotional distress and anxiety because of that. I remember feeling really anxious to go over to any of my friends' house because what are they thinking of me, right? And so this led to unhappiness, and I had to start figuring it out, okay? Well, then I get into baseball, and I'm a really good baseball player. So then I start getting the other side of it, which is all the cheers and the rah-rahs, and you're an athlete, and you go, and it's like, what? I'm listening to all of these cheers, and then I'm listening to all of these boos, and by listening to both of them, I'm starting to go freaking crazy. And what I realized was that, listening to the cheers would set you up to fall by the boos, right? So think about it this way. If you live by the cheers, you're going to die by the boos. And really what that is a slick and funny way to say, don't let other people judge you, period, for what you do or don't do that they disapprove of or approve of, and that or what they approve of and what they give you praise for. Don't listen to that judgment either, okay? And so I'm going to walk you just through some thoughts that I have here today in the podcast of how I've kind of dealt with this and my journey of overcoming this mental health and how I got to a place where I feel now of really strong mental health. Not that there's not ebbs and flows and still gaps and things I'm working on, but I think you never get perfect at it. It's something that you're just trying to constantly get better at. And I think the foundation is don't let other people's judgments, their cheers, or their boos have a predication of your happiness. All right? That's important. All right, so another way to think about this might be don't give people with the least amount of information the most important consideration. Don't give people with the least amount of information the most important consideration. When I'm a baseball player playing for the San Francisco Giants minor league organization, and I am in front of a 7,000 person sellout crowd on July 3rd. I'm a closer, by the way. A closing pitcher means I come in the ninth inning. 2 back-to-back nights I come in. The first night I come in, the biggest crowd I've ever played in front of, a future MLB star, he's a third baseman, and he was at the plate, and I was pitching, and I came in the ninth inning, and there was one man on base. We were up by 2 runs. I walked the guy in front of this batter. I threw a fastball right down the middle, first pitch, and he hit a 3-run walk-off home run, and I lost the game in front of 7,000 people, and every single one of those 7,000 people were boo the whole time. I had to be the jersey, the number, the guy in the paper who gave up the 3-run home run, all right, that lost that I believe it was a July 3rd game in front of the sellout crowd. And then they had to shoot the fireworks off after I freaking gave up the home run, as if the home run off the bat wasn't already a loud enough firework. The next night, I come out because I had only thrown 15 pitches. They believe in me. I'm playing well overall. I had a bad game. I come out the next night, same thing, sellout crowd. It is July 4th. There's standing room only, if that. Same situation, only we're up 3 runs. I walk the first batter, strike out, ground out, double play. We get out of the inning. I get the save. We get the win. So back-to-back nights. I had one night where I gave up a 3-run home run, and the entire crowd is just booing and cursing my name. The next night, those same people, as soon as I save the game for the team, now they're, yay, let's go. Here we go. Now I'm the hero, and I saved the day. And so it was that day. I was 22 years old. It was that day when I realized, because, man, you can't listen to either one of these things, because the night, all the way until the next game, or until the next opportunity, I'm just so glad it was the next game so it didn't have to sit with me for like a week, that I was so depressed. Like, I felt the worst I'd ever felt in my life, because that's the first time that I've had 7,000 people staring at me and booing me all at once. Like, it was, to me, the ultimate letdown. This was like my big debut, and I was like depressed for like the next day at least. I was even weirdly depressed after I saved the day the next day. It's like, because I still let people down. So it's like, I just stopped listening to the cheers, and I stopped listening to the boos, and I stopped giving the people that have no information about my past career, my current statistics, where I want to go, what my future is, what the role of my in the organization is, what kind of teammate I am. I don't allow those people to be able to cheer me or boo me. I adopted this attitude of staying even-keeled. And if you live by the cheers, you will die by the boos. And this, to me, is the foundational principle in my life that keeps my mental health in check. Because if mental health is disrupted, if anxiety or depression or extreme frustration is triggered or initiated by these types of events of judgment of other people, mostly it's negative, right? And nowadays, but if it's triggered by that, well then how do we bypass just not even listening to that? Like, how do we bypass just not allowing that to have any depth into our soul to be able to grab onto our emotions and then pull those up into the forefront of our prefrontal cortex to think about them all the time, okay? Well, I think it's two things. It's like, well, I was a professional baseball player, and I was 22 years old, and the people that are booing me are 58-year-old males that show up to these games every single day, and their significance in their life is predicated on showing up and being a great fan, okay? They love the team, right? This is hometown Joe that has been a minor league fan for his entire life. Who am I to come in as a pitcher and to take his boost personally? Like, the way to not listen to the boos or the negativity is to deploy empathy and kindness and understanding of the situation that this person that's giving this to you is in. And so Joe is sitting there in the stands, and Joe's got the jersey on. He's got the hat. He's buying the popcorn. He's enjoying his life. He's got his family out. He's having his 3 beers that he has every Friday home game and every Saturday home game. And he just wants to make his kids have a great experience. He wants his kids to know how dedicated of a baseball fan that he is, because he really wants his kids to love baseball. And so, hey, if you come in and you're on the Augusta Green Jackets and I'm average Joe living in Augusta and I'm going to these games and I got my family there, you better bring it if you come in on July 3rd, by the way, because I brought some extra money for some extra hot dogs. Hey, I'm getting one more beer tonight, all right? We're going out afterwards tonight because this is a special occasion. And I'm doing this for my family. I'm spending $100 on this night out. I got my aunt with me even for this special occasion. She's not a baseball fan. I really want to make her a baseball fan. So I'm going to be extra loud, extra Joe tonight. And if you give up a 3-run home run, okay, I'm going wild. And I'm going to boo your ass until I can't see it anymore, right? And as a baseball player, I didn't understand that at the time. I didn't understand the lens that Joe was looking through to be able to boo me. He doesn't give a crap about me. He didn't care about what I was there to do. He didn't have enough information for me to have that much consideration. He doesn't care about me, right? And that's kind of a harsh thing to say, but what he cared about is the team. Like, when people talk badly about you, nobody really cares about what you're saying. If you actually look at it, they're really saying something negative about you or booing you because of the way that they feel. And it doesn't even always have to be a negative way that they feel. Joe's booing me because of the admiration that he wants his family to have, because he's such a dedicated, loyal baseball fan, and he knows more statistics than everyone in that entire arena, entire stadium. And so if you just understand and can deploy empathy and look at this through like the other lens, like the classic example, and you hear every influencer under the sun kind of talk about this, but they'll say things like, just ignore people that are trolling you if they're commenting negatively because they just have a bad life. And, they're just trying to be a crab in the bucket that sucks you down. I think that's a bad way to look at it. I think that's a negative way to look at it. I think by talking badly about and calling this person a crab in the bucket, all you're doing is empowering them, right? You're giving them attention, empowering them to do more of that, but you're also not building them up, and you're trying to tear them down. So they're tearing somebody down, then you're tearing them down because they're tearing somebody else down. You're like feeding into it. And to me, that's like, why don't you look at somebody who is maybe trolling on the internet or booing you in the stands or not your biggest fan, and why don't you look at it through not just a lens of empathy where you can understand what this person is actually looking at, but also of kindness, right? So you can really understand that they're not just a crab in the bucket. Joe's not booing me because he's just some negative person. Joe's actually a really positive person, right? And Joe just has desires that most people aren't going to understand unless they're Joe. And so it took me a long time to develop this craft of empathy plus kindness equals understanding equals no judgment or not listening to the boos and not getting too low on that and not getting too high on the cheers either, because I deployed the same way I deploy empathy for Joe, who's booing me but probably has a really super awesome positive life. I look at the same way and the people who are cheering me. It's like, hey, if there's Stan and he's in the stands cheering me, and Stan, like, this is the only thing Stan has to cheer for in his life. This is the only source of significance that he might have. He probably hates his job, right? He might have a relationship that he's not happy with. Like, this is his only source of significance. He's going to cheer so loud when he's here because it fills him up. It's what fulfills him, that I can't feed into that because that's his own source of happiness. His cheers can't be my source of fulfillment because that is his own source of fulfillment, and what fulfills him is not the same thing that fulfills me. So if I'm listening to his cheers, then I'm mapping my fulfillment center, my desire, right through his, right? And I'm not that person. I have a desire to make it to the big leagues. Stan does not. He has a desire to show up every night and have this team win a game because that's what he goes and talks about at the factory the next day. And if the team doesn't win a game, he's depressive. If the team wins a game, then he's on cloud 9. So if the team wins a game, he's cheering at the top of his lungs because he knows he gets to go to the work the next day and have locker room talk and banter back and forth with the people he works about this. And so I don't listen to the cheers for the same, because that fulfillment is not my fulfillment. It's not my desire. I have my own. I can't cheer every time. I'm not going into the factory the next day to talk to people about it, right? What I need to do is put together a body of work over a 142-game minor league season where I don't get too low when average Joe is booing me in the stands, and I don't get too high when Stan is building me up. I don't let either of those things affect my mentality, because my responsibility is to the body of work that I set out to achieve, and that was to have an under a 2.5, what they call earned run average, ERA. Y'all don't need to know that for my non-baseball people out there. But my ERA below 2.5 across a body of work of 142 games and X amount of possible appearances and 20 saves, like that was my body of work. I could not let one game or Joe's boos live with me too long and sit on it and dwell. So I don't listen to the boos, deploy empathy, deploy kindness with that empathy. And then really the same thing with the cheers. It's like, how do you not get an ego when somebody is cheering for you really loud? It's just humility. It's realizing that cheer, as loud as it is their cheer. It's not your cheer. It's for them. It's not for you. So you hear that, you immediately apply humility and realize, hey, how do you do that? Okay, well, you realize you might be sweet because that person's cheering for you that one day, and you might be sweet, and you probably are sweet, but guess what? Humility says there are so many people out there that are way more sweet than you are, that you hadn't made it yet. Come on, who are you? You're in the minor leagues. You're in single A. There's double, triple, there's big leagues, there's the playoffs, there's the World Series, there's the Cy Young Award, there's the Hall of Fame, there's back-to-back. There are so many more levels. Like, who am I to get fed up or to feed into Stan's cheers? Who am I? Because like that cheer means I made it if I'm listening. If I feed into that, that means you made it. There's nowhere else to go but up. If you're Derek Jeter and you've won back-to-back World Series and you're the best shortstop that's ever lived and you've done everything under the sun and under the record books, great. Hey, you probably got there because you're humble. So keep being you, right? And you can listen to the cheers when you get to that point. And if you're the 0.0000001% of your vertical of life that can be that can achieve greatness like that, then it's probably a little bit different story. But for all of us normal people that are going to battle this our whole lives, this judgment versus happiness concept and how that impacts our mental health or our emotions, our frustrations, our overwhelm, our emotional, how long we stay recessed in an emotional cage, like these things can't be dictated by cheers and can't be dictated by boos. So apply humility. I think that's the way that I always think about it. It's like, yes, we are a great company, and we have grown very fast, and we do have 362 open locations as of today, and we do have all of these things. And yes, there's so many great things to be so proud of. But like, in historical context, we're a baby. We're just getting started. There's so much more ground to gain that as soon as we start listening to the cheers, you guys are the best, keep going, you got this, don't stop. Hear that, we put it in our pocket and we take it, but we don't get too high on it. Or when somebody says, hey, this community fitness thing, it's all foo-foo. It's all lovey-feely, high fives are like, come on, like let's just get rid of this fluffy stuff and why don't you like get in line with the industry? Like, who do you guys think you are? It's like, okay, all right, take that too. And I might hold those things and I might examine both of those things and say, hey, is there anything I can take from this? Probably something in each one. Okay, doesn't change the way that I'm going to move forward. Doesn't change the way that I'm going to feel about myself. It doesn't change the confidence that I have because I've spent, like I said, 22 years almost since I was like 12 years old, 13 years old, practicing this craft. Although the first 15 years, I really, really sucked at it, like really, really bad. And it wasn't until mid-20s where I really started to understand this concept and started to observe life in enough volume and with enough precision and focus to be able to extract some of these observations out and say, oh, unhappiness is judgment. Judgment is like the vast majority plus some of mental health on the non-clinical side. Let's try to teach people how not to how not to die to the booze and how not to die by the cheers. And if we can do that, we're going to fix a lot of problems for people, or at least we're going to give an insight that may lead to fixing a lot of problems. So how do you stay even? It's humility, but it's the understanding, the practicality of success and what success really means. Like nothing in life you will be perfect at. No endeavor, no business, no relationship. You will not raise perfect children. You will not be a perfect parent. There is no such thing as perfect. That's what you need to know in order to have a realistic outlook on the ability to not let judgment control your mental health. Okay, you stay even by understanding the practicality of what success really means. I didn't need to have 5 out of 5 perfect games. Actually, I could have 1 terrible game and 4 pretty good games and still make the Hall of Fame. As a hitter, as a batter in baseball, if I hit the ball in fair play and reach base safely 3 times out of 10, I'm in the Hall of Fame. 30%, I'm in the Hall of Fame. If you approach the game needing to get on base safely with the hit 100% of the time, inevitably you're going to fall victim to the booze because of your expectation is outside of reality. I'm very optimistic, I'm very positive, but I'm the most practical optimistic person you could know. Like, it's a practical optimism at its finest because I understand how to navigate between like what's expected of me in this environment. In Burn Bootcamp, we are not going to hit a home run every time that we roll out a new product, a new innovation, a new tactic, a new strategy, a new educational component, hire a new person, build a new training pathway, build a new e-course, go on the road and switch up our educational platforms. Like there's no thing that we are going to do that's perfect. There's no thing that you're going to do that's perfect. So what is the expectation of that success in the first place? That's the number one, like that's the frame of reference and the perspective to stay even keeled. Don't live by the cheers, don't die by the booze. Stay right in the middle, right? And make sure that you stay in control of your happiness by not worrying about what the people say who judge you that have a little bit of information. You can't give those people the most consideration. The people that you do want to worry about their judgment is the people right in your inner circle. The people that when you get off the phone with them, you say, I love you. Or the people that when they're not blood and they're friends or they're coworkers or they're family members of yours, like the family, they're friends but they're family, those people. If you hold them in regard as somebody in your inner circle, those are the people that you want to listen to their judgments. Those are the people that you want to make proud, right? You're not trying to prove everyone else wrong that has little information that you should give very little consideration to. You're trying to prove those people that believe in you, that have all the information. You should give those people all of the consideration, and you should prove those people right. You should want to make those people so damn proud of you that they cry when they talk about how proud of you they are. And if you are living your life in a practical, positive, optimistic way, you are going to stay much happier if you follow this philosophy rather than giving out power to other people's comments and other people's judgments, allowing it to impact your mental health and your happiness ultimately when they have no idea who you are. All right? No idea who you are. So important. My number one thing for my life is this concept right here. Kline principle number 1. All right? That's enough, though. I've rambled on too long during this. Thank you for letting me go off on a conscious thought stream, a stream of consciousness, rather. And I've been talking for 2 hours now. I got some stuff to do today. I'm going to take a quick break. I'm going to hit the next half of my day. Thank you guys for hanging with me. Let's see. Make sure you flex on that subscribe button on the podcast and on YouTube. This is Ask Devan Anything show, okay? So ask questions anywhere, comment in the review, in DMs, Instagram, anywhere. I'm here to connect with you. Thank you for hanging out with me today. 2 claps on 2. 1, 2.